Hello, welcome to Flory Models. I'm Philip Flory. Something a little bit different for this particular video build. We're going to be tackling a monster. We're going to be tackling the 1 to 350 scale Wasp class assault ship by Revell. This is the Platinum Edition, which basically means you get a lot of photo etch parts with it and all the rest of it. Now, this particular kit is available from other manufacturers. It's sort of a rebox. This particular one is going to be the LHD 7 version. There is other versions of it out there. So we're going to be doing the Iwo Jima, very, very famous ship and everything else. Now, very complex, the way it goes together. Weathering and stuff like that is something totally new. New techniques to learn, certainly working with a photo etch, trying to get railings on and everything else. The biggest problem when you're doing any type of ship like this is to give it a scale effect, because all too often it is easy for it to look like a toy or a small little thing. When you try to get things to get a scale effect, you try to make them larger than life and bigger than they actually are, so your eye is drawn into them. Now, the best way to do that is through weathering and sort of three-dimensional painting, as in depth of painting. With this, we've got it out here. Here's how big this thing's going to be, if not a little bit bigger. But we've got here the actual hull. Now, obviously, if you was just to paint it normally, it'd just be grey, and then perhaps on the lower half we'd have the black striping, and then obviously you have the hull red colour underneath. What we need to do is break that down to make it sort of more different shapes, different objects, different tones, different shadow effects, different shadows in real life and everything else. To break it down, to make it look bigger, because the more you can break it down to smaller areas, little bits of detail that draw your eye, make you look deeper into it, closer at it, the bigger the overall effect. If it's just painted grey and red, it will just look like a brick, as I call it. But hopefully by doing a lot of weathering techniques, you know, certainly changing the paint tones, things like that, we're going to try and make it look like it's sort of used in theatre, worn down, perhaps the end of a tour, something else like that. Other things that are going to be going on with this one is obviously it has got a full interior. This isn't just a carrier where we've got a little bit on the deck and that's it. We actually have a full, down the bottom we've got the marine, the amphibious vehicles and everything else like that. So I don't quite see some of the bits down on here, but certainly you can see them here. Down in the kit, they've obviously very basically painted. It'd be something to do as well. We've got these little tiny aircraft, 1/350 scale, very, very small, but hopefully we'll be able to go around and turn them into little miniature models of their own, which are all going to take time. The big thing is, as I said, because we've got this multi-deck system, is a way of allowing us to actually see them. So what I'm going to do is add a little bit of LED lighting in there. Very subtle. We're not going to be talking massive spotlights. We're not going to be talking the ships all fully lit or anything else. We're just going to put in some little seed LEDs really to lighten up the interior. So when you are looking through these hangar doors on the side, things like that, that actually what you actually get is a nice effect of looking through, soft lighting, sort of in-scale lighting and everything else like that. It is a massive project. You know, that's make no doubt about this. If I can get the box open. Literally struggle and fight with this one. But as you can imagine, I've got the hull out and we still have an entire box full of sprues. Now, I've been through this with a review, but as you can see, it goes on and on, and literally it keeps going on and on and on and on and on. We've got the crew decks and we've got the flight deck, as well as we've got a box here, and this is absolutely stuffed full again of all the clear. This is because it's all the parts for the actual aircraft. So as you can see, they've all got to be made up as well. Little mini models in their own, all going to take time. As well as we've got 3 big sheets a photo etch. Now this has got all the railings on, as you can see down here, and everything else like that. So quite frankly, it is a very, very big, massive task. Now a lot of this is going to be taken up with construction, and most of it, to be honest, it's going to be quite boring to watch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way through the build, point out obviously all the bits and pieces that I'm having troubles with or problems with, and showing you how I've overcome them and how to get around a few problems perhaps. Certainly talk about the wiring, how we're going to do LED lighting into this, especially in scale effect and things like that. So we'll get on with that one, and then what we're going to do, we're going to do a detailed walkthrough of adding the photo etch, because obviously it's quite a tricky task to do that, painting, weathering, and getting that great scale effect that we're after. So what we're going to do is make lots and lots of room around here for all of this, and we'll get started. Okay, so first up, we're going to work on the main hull itself. Get that all sort of prepared. There's a few little differences between the different versions of the kit that are out there. So if you go through the instructions, and it is the bit of the trouble with this one, but as you poke your way through and you sort of look ahead going through these, what you'll notice is you'll get some of these call outs like down here where it's saying about removing this particular part, filling these ones, then you'll go on a few more steps and it talks about them again. So what it is, I flipped through and had a look for them. Now the ones it's talking about, okay, is this one just down here, which is something where we've got a little bit raised just down here, and then what we've got is two little ones that are raised on the other side. So this is something we can just sort of chip them off like so, just to bring them down. We'll sand them and clean them up in a moment. So they're the easy ones to get rid of, just like that. Then you've got a couple of holes just down here that need filling. So what we use, a little bit of perfect putty. Okay, so what we've got here is we'll just get rid of a little bit of the old stuff. Quick clean up. Okay, so nice fresh stuff off the top, and we just got a couple of little holes we're going to fill. So we've got that one just there, this little guy just here, so we just fill those. So it's nice flat areas. Might have to need 2 coats so you don't get any slinkage. Down the other end we've got 3 holes to fill up. So what we've got is this guy just down here. So we've got that one and that one, and then we've got 3 little guys just there. So we need to clean up those holes. What I tend to do is push in, then scratch off. And what I'm going to do is leave a little bit high there. Okay, so we'll have to do the same for this one as well. What it is, there's a hatch here that obviously is not there anymore, and a little, looks like a window or something right next to it, so that's got to go as well. The main part of the cleanup though is this. Now what we've got down here is a centre seam running right the way down the middle, and we've got the 2 pins obviously that will cut away. So for this particular one, we're going to use straight edge blade, okay, and all we're going to do is just run it down. Now we could sand and take our time, but it's pretty flat and just a curve, and using a straight edge like this should just give us an idea of exactly what we've got, and it will just speed up just a little bit. And obviously we've got this little area here. So just give it a rub over, take the high side out so we know it just needs a little bit of filling under there. Same with this one. Okay, and then what you've actually got is, you might be able to see we've got a join running down here at the back. So we can do just the same, just to see what we've got that's raised and fallen. So obviously it's the different versions that have come along over time. You've got different types on here, but by using, because we're on a flat surface and we don't have to worry about detail or anything else like that, we can make quite a crude job of it, if you like, and just scrape these out before sanding, just tidy them up. These. Make sure you always go all the different directions if you're doing this. Okay, you're just looking for an equal colour to everything. Okay, and then you can just come in with your sanding sticks. So we've got some minimal damage here, so we can just pop in with some skinny sticks. To sand these down, bring them all nicely into line. So I don't know how many people are going to be looking at the underside, but we know we're taking care of it. Okay, and then just same on the top. I'm going to have to do a tiny little bit of cleaning, I think, just on this guy here. So we'll just get rid of most of it. Pretty good. All the way down. Just like so. And then what we do, got the black. Just give a little bit more. It's just a tiny bit raised. What we'll do is just sand this guy down here. Feeling still raised. Feeling pretty good. Tiny bit more. That's there. So what we do, switch to the other side and then polish up. So we just make our way with the polished side, and then obviously you would take out then your main polisher, and you can buff all this back up to a nice even finish. So when we come in here to do all the bits, we should all be good again with no off areas. So we just give it a polish up, you can see. And that's what we do to the rest of the hull, just to bring it up in line. Have a look, say, take out those points, sand, fill all those areas it directs. That's the only ones I can actually see. So it's just the ones at the front there, next one down, one in the middle, one towards the rear. Okay, and that is it. Apart from that, the hull itself's pretty good. I think it's going to lend itself particularly nicely to weathering, because we've got raised detail. And that gives everything some nice stuff to cling to, just like that. So with that out of the way, the other thing I've done to start with, the upper deck, I found mine's got a little bit of a warp in. That's going to be a real pain when we put it down if we've got lift in or it's a little bit bent. So right now, from now on, it's staying flat on the desk, keeping it flat so it straightens out over time. So that's those. Next up, we started on the superstructure as well on the internal. So what we got here, this is the lower bay for it. Pretty straightforward. You've got two halves just down here. If I give you the run through at the same time. So what we actually did, we just went back here. This is this section down here in parts 1 and 2. So lower floors, to be honest, I put the sides on first, then put the floors in, just kept it all straight and everything in. What we're going to do is put them together now with the upper deck as well. We've got the upper part which sits on just like this, so both these decks sides on. No detail into them as of yet, because what we're going to do is paint them in the basic form, i.e. we get the floor colours down, the walls, we can give a light dry brush around on the inside, perhaps a wash just to liven it up and everything else like that. But it gives us our fix to where everything's going to go and how it's going to lay out. I haven't gone around and put all the little detail bits in, because they can be painted as a separate, detailed up by hand, then be glued in. But to start with, you want to get all the big parts just together, just at the moment, so they can sort of fit in and we get a feel for it, of exactly how it's going to be, what we're going to need to paint and everything else. So to start with, I was thinking we're going to have to paint the inside of this. Not at all, because when you do fit all this in, it goes in something like this here. So that fits in, just goes in to the lower deck, just like that. And we've got this upper one. A little bit apart. Get it in. Come on. Which goes in something like that. It really picks up the weight and you can feel it. But as you can see, we haven't got to do any painting whatsoever on the inside, because it will literally all be covered. The other thing as well, in a moment we're going to start to work out exactly how we're going to fit the lighting in, where the battery's going to go, the electrics for it and everything else like that. But that gives us an idea of what we're going to do, how it's going to look, how it's going to come together and absolutely everything else like that. Okay, so moved on a little bit and we've started to prep a lot of these areas. First of all, we've cleaned up and we've basically checked on the way that the carrier's going together. We've given it a little bit of light grey, just right the way over it, just to make sure all the holes are filled and we've got no problems. To be honest, we are going to need, I think, another little refill at the top hole up here. Not exactly happy with that one's come out, but we've got plenty of time on that one. Check the seam along the bottom, that's fine, no problem. Now, The big thing or a problem I always have myself, is when you're dealing with Revell's instructions, they call out paint colours and it's always mixes. They never seem to have the right colours or anything else. Now I don't keep Revell paints in my range, as you can probably see here. So what I tend to do is we tend to make either a mix or get the closest we can get using the colours we have. Now when you're dealing with ships and metal and everything else like that, we're in a situation where we're going to be weathering it and toning it and everything else. So I can't see the real point of picking the exact right navy grey for this interior, because we're going to darken it slightly and by doing shading. So what we're going to do is stick with a couple of based colours, and then we can work our way right the way through them. So for instance, what we've done here with these compartments, you can see this is the lower deck. This is standard XF19. Now, to be honest, it did have some Vallejo primer right the way over this to start with, and then it's gone over. And then all I've done just around these areas, just these bits down here, is we've just dry brushed those in just to make them look a little bit nicer and sort of tidy them up and everything else. We'll talk about the rest of that in a moment. So we've done this upper deck, very straightforward, it all going together, painted, and then we've just picked out little things like, well, the camera can get in here, we've got the little windows down in here, you might be able to see them down there, and then we've dry brushed with a wet mix. Now when I'm dry brushing with a wet mix, what I tend to do, I've got a nice big flat brush, we've got down here some thinners, so we've got literally a couple of drops of thinners into this, and I'm using a little bit of rubber black to make a very thin mix, because if you're going to use normal just black paint, it might be too strong. I want it to be sort of more greyish, more weirdo colours, and as you probably see down here, we've got it's matte, so all we do is get it all off. Now it's important to get it basically all off, so when you brush it lightly, you don't get anything. It's only when you scrub you get a little bit left on your paper towel, okay? So as you can see, rubbing, nothing, but give a bit of a scrub, you get some marks there. So what you can do, I've done most of the other areas, you can just come along now and pick out these tops, okay, and literally lightly brush in. So we've got some scuffs going to go in here and everything else. But with all dry brushing, and to be honest, that's a little bit too quick, it's just a case of building it up, building it up, building it up, okay? It's not something you do straight away with just a handful of passes, okay? So just keep it going down in there. And we're just doing this top one here, and what we'll do, we just pick up a little bit more on the brush, get rid of most of it all off. Okay, and then what we'll do, we're just going to come back again, straight in, very light, just to start with. And then as things dry, obviously the dry brushing tends to fade off and stuff like that, then you can up it a little bit more. Okay, as you go around, but this will hopefully give us a nice little bit of variation right the way through. So then I've carried on, as you might be able to see, right down these entire areas just to really give it a bit of shading. Now, the deck area. Here's a photo of what we're trying to recreate. Now this is after it had a refit, so it's pretty clean down in here. There's no real corrosion or anything else taking part. So this is the deck area. Now this down here apparently is wood. That's the trouble. It's almost like railway sleepers. It's an oiled wood, it's protected and everything else. But what this basically does is protect the side of the ship from being bashed and banged and everything else. Okay, so we're not talking metal on metal. It looks like it's rubber. Now, when you look at these pictures, the floor looks pretty good, okay? But the trouble is, if you, I don't know how well, perhaps if we just draw this side camera in just a little bit, just down here, you might be able to see the floor texture we've got is okay. That's pretty much what we've got just down here. The trouble we have is the side shows these very large, looks like rubber squares. The problem we have, when you look at ours, you might be able to see them down in here, okay, is they're not like that at all. These ones here are more like quite small, very sort of multiple holes in it and everything else that goes through. So I think that's going to be a bit of a problem, because as I say, ours just doesn't look like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with the fact that it probably is wood, okay, but if it is rubber, we've got a little contingency plan to do. So the first thing we need to do is mask up. So all we're going to do is we're just going to come along Okay, just generous piece of tape. Okay, it's a little bit difficult to show and hold all at the same time, but I'm just going to put one end down in there. Okay, and we've got the second one in just like that. Now you have an option. You can either airbrush this, okay, or you can dry brush it. Now I'm going to dry brush it. Now there's a reason for this, is because I do believe with the texture that it's got, it will give us a nicer texture. So next up is the colour that we're going to actually use for this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use, we've got here this dark iron colour. Now the great thing about this dark iron colour, it's got like a wood, it's like a very dark wood colour with a little bit of a fleck in it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a bit of a custom mix between this stuff, okay, which we've got here, and the rubber black. That way I'm covering myself on both sides, because if it is wood, it will look like wood, and if it is rubber, hopefully it'll look a little bit rubbery as well. Well, that's the plan. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're just going to use our pot here. Again, we want to thin it just a little bit, so a few drops of thinners go in first. So we're just going to grab, okay, a little bit of the metallic, okay, which will give us a sort of metally, woody colour. And then we're just going to grab a little bit of the rubber in here as well. So hopefully, and it actually works quite well, it's given us a dark sort of rubbery colour to this. So then again, what we're going to do, we're just going to dry brush most of it off. Okay, so it's something like that. Doesn't have to be perfect on this one. And then what we're going to do, we're just going to come in and we're going to simply start dry brushing it right on. Now again, this will take quite a bit to get going and lean up, but what I'm hoping is it will give us a nice weathered opportunity. Okay, so we just take a bit more. Because this is going to have a wash on top of all of this yet to darken it out just a little bit. So hopefully it will give us the little areas all in between them to really liven it all up. Now this is one of those areas where we're hardly going to see any of this, which is going to be the real shame to it, but we know it's all good. May need 2 coats. Okay, right on these sides, just to try and bring it all to life. Hopefully you can see this is the type of pattern we're going for, so we've got it all both just down there like that. So we're just going to come in, second coat, a little bit more. Okay, so then when we unmask it, we end up with something looking just like that. So hopefully between the 2 angles you can sort of see them. Alright, the overhead's a bit better, but that's the type of effect we're going for. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing now on the other side, exactly the same with the floor, okay, and then that way we can then get all those bits put in. We've got to do some yellow banding. This yellow banding that you can see down the bottom, it's got to go along there. Then we're going to have to mask out the floor for all these little inlay areas. Then there's various decals that go on as well. I don't think I'm going to decal them. I think I'll mask and spray them to put all those in. So I'm going to get these rubber stroke woody tiles all inserted down onto this now.